Oye, te habla tío Sabio Vega. This is Sabio Vega and you watching True Heel Hit a mi manera o para la calle.
Hey guys, this is Dan Rosa and welcome to True Heel Heat.
What's up, True Heel Heat? True Heel Heat.
What's up? True Heel Heat.
Hello, everyone. It's the hardcore legend Mick Foley wishing a nice day to everyone there, right there at True Heel Heat. Yeah.
Check the sound skin. New York, we know where we at. We on the East Coast, but we from the West Coast. But it's all love, dog. Trill, Heel, Heat. Yee.
Hey, you fucked that all up.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and not Twitter for our WWE Survivor Series War Games 2024 review, discussing last night's premium live event from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And yes, we got to talk about both War Games that went down last night. And to do that, I am joined by my esteemed colleague. You see him every single week, every single weekend on the True Heel Heat Flash Hit podcast alongside me and Miss Chrissy Love. He is the true draw himself. Josh, how are you doing?
Doing good. It was a great show last night. Haven't sat there in a while for a PLE, so feels good.
He's like, about goddamn time.
Yeah, I was like, yo, it took long enough.
I love you, Solo. Yes, we got to talk all about the Bloodline War Games, the Women's War Games, 3 other championship belts that went down last night. We appreciate y'all if you are joining us live. Appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. Remember to show your appreciation back. The simplest way possible is just by dropping the thumbs up on the video. It's free, guys, and it helps the YouTube algorithms and helps other wrestling fans like yourself check out the True Heel Heat content that we got over here. You can also share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you're new to the True Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you guys, hear your thoughts on last night's premium live event from WWE, because we're here pretty much every single week, 52 weeks out of the year. We're getting to the end of the year. We're in the last month of 2024. 2024, what a blur, but we're in the last month, so we've done plenty of content that you can enjoy throughout 2024, whether it be WWE previews or reviews for every single one of their premium live events. We also do AEW, New Japan, Stardom, TNA, and much, much more as well here on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel. So a great time to subscribe, but great time to interact with us. We love to interact with all of you, hear your thoughts on last night's Survivor Series War Games. But of course, if you're feeling generous, you want to give back to what we do here, you want to spread some holiday cheer with a super chat donation. You can do so by hitting the $ right at the bottom. Any dollar amount matters, and we will highlight your comment on screen, and it shows your appreciation to what we do here and keeps the channel moving. We already got in the chat with us I Make Beats, who says, I love you, Solo. Jacob Fatu, what a star-making performance last night, Josh.
Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of expected from Jacob at this point, right?
I think he's been impressive every time we've seen him, but I don't think he's had this good of a performance since signing with WWE in a match.
Yeah, because I mean, at least for me, because I'm just like, yeah, I mean, he's easily the best athletic member of the Team Bloodline. So, I mean, anything he does, it's gonna be good. There was that one spot though that he scared the shit out of me because it did not look good. Like even the landing when he landed, it kind of looked like his leg just like broke because it was kind of just like there, like it was just like it looked like it had like no feeling in it, and then he was grabbing, but then apparently he's fine. So I mean that's good. That's a good thing. But those leg injuries, I noticed that with him too. That the thing always tends to happen, and you know I don't want him to be in a position where, you know, like where you kind of expect it to happen at some point, right? Like he's kind of getting away with it, but then it might end up happening like a big injury, and you kind of just don't want that. So I mean, it's not much he could really do because it's his style, right? He does like the jumpy stuff, like that's his style. So, you know, he's gonna do what he does. I think he has the awareness of it. So I'm not too worried. But then that's something. But it is something I think to look at because we've seen it a few times already.
Yeah, he's very believable when he's selling an injury. That's for damn sure. But yeah, we gotta look closely at that moving forward. But we got a lot to discuss from that main event, men's War Games matchup involving the Bloodline. You got Big Hero Chris, who also says, "I love you, Solo." We got I Make Beats, who says, what's good, THH fam? Triple threat highlight of the show. He also says, happy December, y'all. And also he says, I rewatched the triple threat just before fire. Fire emoji. We also got Vala B, who says, this was a fun show overall. We also got Power Jerry Finisher, who says, best wishes to Jacob and Jimmy. Yes, putting their bodies on the line. Jimmy Uso apparently has a broken toe.
Yeah.
Broken toe.
Jacob is fine. Jimmy has a broken toe. If you want to say best wishes to freaking Bronson Reed. Apparently he fucked up both ankles.
Yeah. Apparently he crushed both ankles. Yeah, that I was like, that don't sound good. And not right now for Bronson Reed. He was on the high of his life. Just main evented his first premium live event. He's on the biggest push of his WWE run, and then he gets hurt.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you hope it's minor. Like I hope it's minor, but from what Triple H was talking about it last night, it didn't sound too promising. Like, oh, he's gonna be out a few weeks. You know, no big deal. I'm like, a few weeks for us could be could feel like a year. Like that's usually not a good thing for sometimes for certain wrestlers because like if they're getting hot at the moment and they get injured, guess what? That momentum's probably gone. Some people are not Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch broke her nose and she came back and she was as hot as ever, but not everybody gets that same fortune. You know what I mean? So it sucks, but I mean the best thing you could hope for is that it's minor. I think the best scenario is like, oh, he had a sprained ankle. I think you could deal with that because he'll be back like 2-3 weeks. But what he said last night did not sound too promising.
Not very much. Not very much so. But we're going to talk more about that for sure. But we're going to discuss everything that went down at Survivor Series War Games. So if you're watching us on demand, we appreciate y'all for joining us. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought about WWE Survivor Series War Games. This is our opinions, what we think about it. You can think differently. You don't have to agree. You can definitely disagree. Just like what you like. Don't be a dick. Listen to the motto. But yes, what?
Oh, I think. What the hell? I lost audio. I think I lost. I think you're muted.
Yeah, that was my fault. I don't know what happened. My mic cuts out sometimes.
Yeah, I honestly, I thought it was me. I was like, oh shit, what the fuck did I do? I was like, that was me.
You gotta fill in the blanks. You gotta fill it. It's not you. You gotta assume it's not you and that it's me. But yes, give me your one word, one phrase to give your thoughts on WWE Survivor Series War Games 2024.
One word. It was great. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. It was great. I really didn't know what to expect just because like we kind of had like our down periods. We had like the like the women's war games. We weren't too big on that. We weren't too thrilled on that. The build up. Then we had the LA Knight Shifts game match that was kind of thrown in. The triple threat match was thrown in. We had Priest and Gunther, which I was like, I think it'll be an okay match, but nothing to write home about. And then obviously the main event was basically like the show. Like that was what we were looking for, and definitely delivered on so many aspects. Definitely delivered when it comes to that. This was kind of a show that I don't know, like if the matches were mid and then we had the main event that we did, maybe it's still a great show. It's like kind of that's how it kind of felt, but a lot of matches were presentable. I mean, a lot of matches were either better than we expected. Some results were a little surprising, and sometimes that's what you ask for when you watch a show, right?
Yeah. My one word or one phrase would be 2-match show. This was the 2-match show. But the 2 matches were really, really damn good. So you'll see why I say that at the end of the show. But we got also in the chat, I Make Beats who says the women's war games turned up when Io entered. We also got Fatu who says I blame Tiffany Stratton for trying to cash in war games and cost Team Liv the matchup. And I Make Beats says Winsuke Nakamura. Good stuff. All right. Let's talk about the opening matchup to Survivor Series War Games last night. And it was one of our 2 War Games matchup. This time, it was for the women's War Games kicking off. You had Naomi coming out, and it was her birthday. Happy birthday, Naomi. You had
a fucking hat on her. She has the birthday hat. She has the birthday hat on her. Somebody asks, well, whose birthday is it? The fuck?
I mean, let's be fair to them. Maybe their eyesight sitting next to Jesus in that arena, they couldn't see that during the matchup. It's okay. You had Bianca
Yeah,
Belair
that's
came
true.
out. Bianca Belair came out to a good reaction. Bailey had War. It's basically straight razored into the side of her head. You also had Io Sky got a good reaction. Rhea Ripley got one of the biggest pops of the night. Nice little cool custom protective mask that Rhea has. Then you had the heels come out.
Far
The heels-
better than the shit she was wearing on Raw.
The heels came out. The SmackDown heels of Nia, Tiffany, and Candice wore white and black gear, while the Judgment Days, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, they wore black and white. And then the women's war games began with, okay, it makes sense. Send out Bailey, the most veteran of pretty much the most veteran of her team. But why would the heels send out Nia Jax to start the match? And she has to work for 38 minutes? Are you who made that decision? Whoever that agent was who made this decision deserves to be fined. I am sorry. You're setting my girl up for failure. What are y'all doing? But they started off. They were even for the first 5 minutes or so before Jax drove Bailey into the cage with a big hip attack right before Naomi entered the cage. Naomi entered and she used a colorful kendo stick to match her gear and used it on Nia. The crowd then chanted "Happy Birthday" to Naomi, just in case you weren't aware whose birthday it was.
What's the fucking excuse for that one? What's the excuse for that one?
Naomi also had a toilet seat, which she placed on Nia's head and then did a stink face. Candice LeRae pushes aside Tiffany Stratton and enters the War Games next. The crowd booed because they wanted Stratton. The babyface's advantage made no difference because Jax fought off her opponents and was standing tall by the time LeRae even entered. They placed Bailey on top of 2 upright chairs, and Candice did the lion salt on top of them. Bianca Belair was in next. She came in. She brought in a fire extinguisher, as well as she also had a table that she brought in, much to the fans' delight. Of course, they always love tables. The babyfaces finally gained control when Tiffany Stratton was in next. Stratton smashed Belair over the head with a trash can lid, but Belair definitely got her hands up. It was 3-on-3, and the heels easily took over thanks to Stratton. Naomi targeted Jax and hit her as lightly as possible with a steel chair. Nia Jax threw some steel chair shots that would make Hulk Hogan in 1995 be like, "That's the GOAT right there. That's the GOAT. That's how I'm going to throw all my steel chair shots." Oh my God. These are some of the worst. This match had some of the worst steel chair shots I think you will see in modern professional wrestling. Next up was Io Sky. She came in and like what it was said in the comments, the energy of the matchup definitely picked up. The crowd gave her a decent reaction. She grabbed a purple and gold trash can, which got a big reaction as well. Immediately climbed the side of the cage instead of entering the door. Sky placed the can on the top of the cage, but Candice LeRae cut her off. They started fighting for a bit. Sky knocked her off of the cage. She tried for a sunset flip powerbomb, but wasn't able to complete it. Instead, she hit a flying drop kick off the top rope. Raquel Rodriguez entered in next. Everyone waited around as she looked for something under the ring, but I don't think she ever found what she was looking for anyway. She helped her team gain the advantage, even though, again, the teams are even. The crowd chanted, "We want mommy," as Jackson Rodriguez took a page out of AOPs and was powerbombing Sky and Naomi into each other before powerbombing them onto Bailey and Belair. Then finally, Rhea Ripley came in, and she was a house of fire. She went right after Raquel, but Stratton made the save. The heels had control, even though the babyfaces had the numbers advantage. Naomi made a save for Rhea. With everyone down, it was time for the crowd to chant, "This is awesome," even though it definitely wasn't. Everyone traded moves, which included the toilet seat and Belair's braid being used as a whip. Ripley used her face mask to headbutt Jax, and then she looked at her clock, as they counted down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to bring in Liv Morgan as our final participant in the women's War Games. Liv looked scared at first, but then she marched to the back and grabbed her baseball bat, apparently the same one she used to injure Rhea Ripley's orbital bone, to officially start the War Games. Ripley removed her face mask and attacked Morgan. She looked good. She looked great without the face mask, with the black face paint and everything, looking like a warrior. But before Ripley could get her hands on Morgan, in came Jax to save Morgan from a riptide. All the heels started beating down Rhea until Liv grabbed her bat and started wailing on Rhea's midsection. You get everyone trading moves once again. Jax hits a big Samoan drop for a 2 on Bayley. Sky climbed the right side of the cage, even though nobody was in that ring. And we got a big dive sequence as we get both Tiffany and Io making the big dive onto the pile of competitors in the ring. And this came right after they did anything you can do, I can do better kind of flip sequence. So this was the biggest pop, the biggest spot of the matchup for sure here. Tiffany hits a beautiful senton while Io basically puts the trash can on top of her to protect her body and does a moonsault off the top of the cage. Beautiful stuff. Go out of your way to watch that one. Definitely a clip they're going to replay when it comes time for War Games next year. Stratton gets up. Seemingly she's looking for a weapon, but instead she grabs the Money in the Bank contract. And it looks like she's about to cash in, but she doesn't know who she's going to cash in on, as both Liv and Nia are both down. Big pop from the fans when she pulled out the briefcase out of the trash can. Raquel is arguing with her and screaming at her for trying to turn on her team. But as they're arguing, Io Sky comes and she uses a fire extinguisher to take out both women. With the fire extinguisher smoke in her eyes, Raquel backs up into the corner where the heels had brought handcuffs to handcuff Rhea Ripley. But Rhea took this opportunity to handcuff Raquel to the top rope, basically taking her out of the last portion of this matchup. The baby faces, the former Damage Control teammates team up together as Bayley and Io start arguing until Jax knocked them both down. Belair and Naomi drove to Jax through a table with a double powerbomb, but Morgan broke up the cover with a bat to the ribs of Naomi. We get her trying to attack Bianca with the bat as well. Morgan gave Bayley an Oblivion on a steel chair, but Ripley broke up the cover. Ripley set up Morgan for a riptide, but Rodriguez was able to break it up even though she was handcuffed. Morgan hit Ripley with a chair-assisted codebreaker. Morgan and Ripley battled atop the top rope until Ripley was able to hit an avalanche riptide off the top rope through the table, perfect landing. And the crowd is very happy as Team Rhea Ripley pick up the victory here. The babyfaces celebrate on top of the War Game steel structure. The final 10 minutes of this matchup was a lot of fun, especially with the dives by Io and Tiffany. Io and Tiffany had great chemistry together in the matchup. Bianca Belair brought a bunch of energy into the matchup, and honestly, I think in retrospect, she should have started the War Games matchup for the baby faces. I thought that Io was always is great in the War Games setting. I thought Liv played her role very well. Rhea Ripley is an absolute star. And I thought Raquel looked good as well as kind of the enforcer to Liv. But my God, the first 27 minutes of this fucking godforsaken matchup was the utter shits. It was so bad. Some of the chair shots, slow plotting offense, all the action going at a snail's pace. The crowd, which was hot to start the matchup, slowly kind of getting quiet in certain sections. Like, it just all added up to a horrible first 2/3 of this matchup. I was trying to be nice to it earlier when I think last night when I was messaging in the chat, and I was like, the first half sucked, second half was bad. No, the first 2/3, like, it's not even half. The first 2/3 of this matchup is not good. It's just not good at all. But the last 10, 11 minutes, very much fun. Adds up to a 3-star matchup. But it was basically the build told you what this was. This was a put together, haphazardly women's war games because we need to have a women's war games. When this match would have been a lot better as a traditional Survivor Series elimination match. Bring it back. Like, you don't need a men's and women's war games. You are diluting this stipulation. You basically wanted to save the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, save the Hell in a Cell stipulation by stop making that a pay-per-view. You're at that point with war games, and it's only been 3 years. It's been 3 fucking years. Josh, what did you think about the women's war games?
Pretty much the same way. At the first, like, it was rough. Like, for a while, it was rough. Like, even like when they were bringing in people, the ladies trying to work. I mean, it was pretty, like, not only boring, but it just felt like super basic. You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing going really on. There was no, like, nothing, you know, nothing crazy. So it was kind of just, that's why it kind of felt flat for me at the beginning. And it didn't pick up until I think the moonsault spot. I think, like, when both ladies jumped off, I think it didn't pick up. It picked up after that. So, I mean, good for them. At least they salvaged it. Because imagine if it just would have been, like, just completely bad. But at the same time, I think a lot of fans probably would have given them a pass anyway, because usually a lot of fans tend to overrate women's matches. Like, if a women's match is really, like, if it's solid, they'll say, oh my God, that was so great. That was match of the night. And if it's not, like, you know, some cases, sometimes, like, if it's not like what they expected, they'll say, oh, this was like the worst match of the night or something. But it's like, I mean, that's why it's usually a little bit harder to judge women's matches, because their scale is a little bit weird. It's a little bit harder for some reason. But last night, I mean, yeah, most of them, maybe about like 80% of the match. It's kind of rough until like those last like 10 minutes, like you said. Like, it picked up, and you know, I thought the heels would win, but thought wrong. I thought wrong on that. I kind of knew, honestly, that the heels were going to lose the moment that they used the fucking Tiffy cash-in bullshit again. Like, I think that's when I knew they were losing, because I was like, why are they doing this right now? I mean, it got a good reaction to the crowd, but to me, it was just like, I don't know, just because I've seen it, it's become so redundant that when I saw that, I was just like, oh, again? Like, why are we doing this? I told Wendy that we were watching it. I was like, they doing this shit again? I was like, come on. Like, why? Why are they teasing us again? I was like, they need to stop doing this shit. And then, I mean, it ended up working out. Like, and in that last sequence, like, with fucking Rhea, like, she did the riptide off the top turnbuckle. Oof. That was a good spot too. And not a lot of people are talking about that spot. That was a good spot.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, like, it does not need to be this long. And if you are gonna have, like, this is why you can't have it haphazardly put together war games, because it makes that first 27 to 28 minutes such a slog to get through if you don't have interesting stories to tell. Yeah, and the reason I say that is because the men's war games did have interesting stories to tell the first 28 minutes before the match officially starts. And that's why it was better than this matchup. It did not have any stories to tell. And my Lord, we have to really talk about, Josh, the fucking crash out for Nia Jax. Nia Jax. I love Nia Jax. I'm already putting together my documents. I'm gonna message the True Heel Heat contributors chat to be like, we're gonna start doing our voting for the end of the year. So when it comes to the end of the year votes, I probably will still have Nia Jax in my top 3, top 5 most improved wrestlers. I think that she's been great ever since she came back to WWE. For most of this year, I've been saying how she's the best signing, the best re-signing of the Triple H era. But my Lord, this crash out of her on premium live events has to be documented. And we have to get more people who's talking about this. She was good. She had the good matchup with Lyra Valkyria at King and Queen of the Ring with that great finish, where she just sat on her and crushed her. Then she had I thought it was a pretty decent matchup with Bayley at SummerSlam, but ever since she won the title, she has not had a good match on pay-per-view. Bad Blood was not a good match with Bayley. Liv Morgan at Crown Jewel, one of the worst matches on a premium live event of the year.
Yeah, that was one of the worst matches of the year, period.
But I think even with those two back to back, I think her performance here was even worse. She dragged down this matchup, and there was very obvious talking. There's a lot of talking going on. Oh, I'm gonna hit you here. I'm hearing that during the matchup, during even the early portion with her and Bayley. Then the steel chair shots where she pauses because she's about to hit her in the head, and she tells Naomi, "No, lean down so I can hit you in the back," and hits her in the back. And it was a combination of Nia not being on her game and WWE production being really bad because they caught all of it on camera.
Yeah, and then also it was a rough spot for her because they had to start early. Why are you putting somebody like that to start early? Usually with me, if I was to do the booking of that, I'll put somebody who's experienced, the most experienced person, two experienced people in the kind of match you put out there, right? Because you want that feel, you want them to be out, not only out there, but they're the ones that are going to be out there the longest. So you want to get those people who are going to do that, right? So for them to pick Nia, to me, that just kind of didn't make any sense. I mean, you having a woman to work 38, 40 minutes when you know she could probably give you a good 10, 15 minutes at most. Anything after 20, it's a struggle. It wasn't a good spot for her. And I think that's why it's unfortunate because a lot of the stuff is like the bad match, the Bayley match, you could put on her too, because of the sloppiness. But even the world title run, the run that she's on is more, it's the bullshit booking. You have Tiffany keep on, that's more of a focus of that than her title run. The title run is basically Tiffany trying to cash in on her. That's what we're getting from that title run as well. And then last night, I mean, I was like, what is she trying to? I mean, hey, I'm always going to give props to people who try. And I do feel like she did try. But at the same time, when you're not comfortable in a match like this, I mean, so much you could fucking do. And I felt like she would have been in a good spot if she would have came out later. Because then, that's how the heels get the upper hand. I think that's why the match was slower paced because I thought the spots were a little weird to me. The people that they chose to come out. And God bless Candice LeRae. I love Candice LeRae. I love the stuff that she did outside of WWE. But damn, with her, I was just okay, she's in the match. What's she gonna do? She had that spot with Io when Io first came in. There was a whole lot of nothing that happened. They were trying to do something, and nothing happened. Legit, nothing happened. And I was like, what was that? What the fuck was that? And I mean, it's unfortunate. It's neither their fault because I know she was trying to do the sunset flip. It wasn't so much it was a botch. It was just their sizes. They're too small. Io's too small. So when Io flipped, Candice was too high up. Io flipped, she couldn't grab her because she's too small. I mean, and it's unfortunate, but I was like, what's going on? I was like, and I said in the chat, I was like, yo, that was a whole lot of nothing. they were trying to like do something, and then nothing happened. I was like, what the fuck was that? And then
Like,
yeah, and I think later, I think right after that, I think that's when you were like, yo, this match fucking sucks. Like, what the fuck?
I actually was watching with my boy, and I'm just like looking at him. I'm like, yo, is it just me, or does this match fucking suck? And he's like, nah, it's really bad. He's like, they botching all over. He was like, there's so many botches. And
You know it's bad when
we were laughing.
you know,
We were laughing
yo,
half of the time.
You know it was bad when Romeo wasn't even defending it. Because even he was kind of like in an agreement. Like it was like, oh fuck, what are they doing? And you know, and it's funny because last night on Chill Heat, like that's kind of what I said too. I was like that this match could go either way. I was like, we're probably gonna get something that the women are gonna do that we're not gonna like, and then they're gonna probably do some good high spots that's probably gonna like put the match over. In which, you know, the last 10 minutes saved that match. It saved it, but for the most part, like if we was to like really rate it, you know,
I think I'm being very generous.
Yeah. I think the three is fair just because like the last 10 minutes really saved it, and like those big spots really brought the crowd back. Like if it wasn't for that, I think it's even more of a drag. But at the same time, for me, it's like if a match is like 40 minutes long and you only get like a match and 10 minutes of it is good, you know, the math ain't mathing to me when it comes to like, everybody's going to say, oh, it was a great match. Like, no, it was not a great match. It was a match that was boring. The last 10 minutes saved it. Like, it's not a terrible thing. And it's not like, I wouldn't put it in the awful category, but at the same time, it's a weird spot for me. It's like,
I would say it's the worst WWE modern era war games.
I think that's fair. I think that's even more fair because honestly, I was feeling like that. I was like, yo, this might be the worst war. I was like, fuck. I was like, what the fuck is this?
There was plenty. Don't trust me. If y'all weren't alive then or you didn't watch, there was plenty of bad war games matches in WCW.
Oh yeah, back in the day, a lot of people don't know. Yeah, you know. And I did see in the chat somebody was complaining about like, oh, they think that the rules whack, that they need 10 opponents in the match.
Like, that's why I kind of highlighted that comment because I don't agree because I think it's worked. It worked all those years in WCW. It worked in NXT. It worked the last 2 years, even though Triple H. I told you the other issue with this matchup is the issue that I ranted about. Yesterday on the flagship.
The advantage.
Ranted about on Ramble. I ranted about it on Rated Raw Review, and then I watched the show, and I was like, they totally fuck up war games by having the baby faces have the advantage. Because it makes the babyface look inferior when the heels are just evening the odds, but they're dominating war games to set up the next person to come out for the baby faces.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Have the advantage.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think last night was kind of a prime example of that when we saw it with the women's too. Because I think what they were trying to do was like, oh, we have Nia starting, so let's give the baby faces the advantage. So then like she has to have like adversity to, you know, since she's the biggest one in the ring, you know, like the most dominant person in the ring. I don't know. It was I mean, like if you want war games to work, I mean, the baby faces shouldn't be getting an advantage. And every time we see it, it's always like the man is either going to get it or the woman's going to get it. We never get like an even kind of thing where in the storyline it makes sense, or within the match it should make sense. And yesterday was kind of a prime example of that. But again, within the rule itself, I mean, you know, you need it to start when everybody's in the ring. That's the whole fucking point of war games. Like, you're gonna have war games and somebody surrender while you have people still waiting in the cage. That's even more whack. Like, that's even more lame. Like,
but it's all about making that the portion of the matchup before the last person enters interesting. And you can do that with storytelling. You could do that with action. You could do that with callbacks. And you know, the men, like that's the thing. Like everything we're saying, the men's war games did it. Like, we're going to talk about that. And the men's war game did all the things necessary to make the opening 28 minutes or so before everyone's in the matchup interesting. Is that you got to play to the characters. You have to have stars out there. And this match did have stars, but there wasn't any real, like, significant interactions. Like, a lot of the stuff that they had going into it, like with Bailey and Bianca. Did they have any type of interaction at all? Not really.
The only one they did was like after the match when they all like raised their hands, and that was about it. Like,
yeah, it was just like it was that part of the story was completely dropped. The stuff with Tiffany, that was fun, but they're all in that last 10 minutes of the matchup. Like, you had to do something more interesting in the opening 28 minutes, and they just didn't do this. We got Chilling with Chase, who says it felt like the NBA All-Star game of War Games matches. And this is why I said it would have worked in a traditional Survivor Series elimination matchup. You do a traditional Survivor Series elimination matchup, you still have the baby faces win, but Rhea and Io are the sole survivors at the end. Boom. That's all you needed to do. You didn't need to do anything other than that.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, like, even when I said a while back, I was like, I never liked the shoehorn kind of aspect for the women, where it's like, oh, we need to do this because the women are there too, so we need to make this match happen. And, you know, for the most part, I mean, that's kind of what we got. We got it with the storyline. I mean, like the build-up was trash. And then the match itself, I mean, for the most part, it was not good. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. This is something that the women's division really didn't need. Like, as in, like, the kind of the downside of things. Like, they really didn't need this. You know, it's just weird, you know. And like I said, I thought the right person for this kind of match, obviously, she was not there. Yeah, you know, like, Bailey's not a bad replacement, but I really thought this could have benefited someone like Jade Cargill because of the hot tag kind of aspect. But
it wouldn't have, because the baby faces had the advantage.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an unfortunate part. That's what I'm saying. Like, if it was backwards, you did certain things, right? If you did certain things, if the heels had the advantage and you had certain people in it and everything would have worked out, then it's a different story. But because, you know, somebody like me and you, like, we'll see like what's wrong with it, right? And WWE, like the casual fans, if they just enjoyed it, then to them it's good. Like, oh my god, that spot was crazy. So because they got what they wanted, they think it's an overall good match. And people like us, we just break it down. It's like we'll just say what we liked and what we didn't like. And for the most part, most of the match here we didn't like, and there was stuff that we still liked, but that didn't come on until like towards the end of the match.
Yeah, I had to sit through 28 minutes of nothing before that finally got a little bit interesting, which is not my cup of tea when it comes to War Games. But we'll talk about the other War Games when we get to the main event. Michael Cole announced a sold-out crowd of 17,828, and this was the largest arena gate record for WWE in Canadian history, which they basically teased and previewed that Elimination Chamber will take place in Toronto, so they'll probably break that record then. They used the noise meter graphic for the entrance of LA Knight. Yeah. Meanwhile, Shinsuke Nakamura had a whole new entrance to go along with his new theme music that debuted on SmackDown as he was about to challenge LA Knight, for the United States Championship. Knight had the advantage for the first 4 minutes or so, which was quite surprising. I thought that Nakamura would have came out more dominant with the new persona. He hits a back elbow. Knight came back with a safe version of the Burning Hammer, lifting Nakamura onto his shoulders and hitting it. Knight tried a leaping superplex, but Nakamura saw it coming. He reverses things and he hits an avalanche reverse suplex, which flips Knight right almost on the back of his head. Knight Knight tried to fight back. We get Knight avoided a Kinshasa, and then he goes up top, goes to the middle rope, and jumps up to the top rope for a flying elbow drop. Instead of going for the cover, he sets up for the BFT, but Nakamura rolled in between the two rings onto the metal plates, joining the rings. Knight went after him, but Nakamura was able to rake his eyes and hit a reverse DDT onto the metal plate. He then follows up with a Kinshasa to the back of the head. 1, 2, 3. Shinsuke Nakamura is your new United States champion. I predicted this on the flagship podcast. I said, you're not going to book Nakamura in a title match 2 weeks after you re-debuted him in a whole new persona and then expect anyone to take him seriously if he loses the title match thereafter. They had to give him this title match to continue this feud. I see this feud continuing, but Nakamura getting the win here. The crowd popped for the surprise win, but they were very, very quiet throughout the rest of the matchup. This one here, I will give 2.5 stars.
Yeah, I was surprised myself because I had LA Knight winning because I was like, they got no faith in Nakamura and they just threw this shit in, so they're probably gonna have him lose, and I was wrong. And I mean that's okay. I was wrong. I mean the match was okay. The only thing that it meant was the title win itself. The match was okay, but like it's kind of a SmackDown match itself.
Yeah,
the match itself was a SmackDown match. That's all it really
didn't
was.
Didn't go over 10 minutes, and we didn't have a commercial break in between. That's the only difference between this and that SmackDown.
Yeah, and I know the crowd was like legit like surprised because it was like, what the fuck? And the way he won like in dominant fashion too. It wasn't like he didn't even use the mist.
I like the fact that LA Knight sold being off of his game very well, and I thought commentary told that story very well as well. That he was a little bit off, which made him jumping up for the superplex and slipping like he always does. It made it make sense because of the story they were trying to tell.
Yeah, and I mean when it comes to that aspect, I mean they did some things like to make it work, but again, it was nothing. Match was okay. Like that's what can you get an LA Knight match, right? It was like okay, like yeah.
Like yeah, that's what you're gonna get. But you get next a sponsored segment where Maxime Dupree and Akira Tozawa gave Otis a new shirt to try on. Otis puts it on. He loves the shirt, but it was wearing nothing below his waist, and he walked bare ass down the hallway. This was blurred, so that happened. Bilal Muhammad of the UFC was shown in the crowd. Then we get Michael.
He got booed out of the building too.
Goddamn, sir.
Yeah. I saw that. I was like, man. It's funny. So like a lot of people who are not familiar with UFC, it's not so much that he's a bad guy. It's just that people find him to be very boring. They find him to be a very boring fighter. And usually with the UFC, like if you're kind of boring to them and you just have like no personality, no charisma, nobody's gonna give a shit about you. And that's what happened.
There you have it. Then we have up next triple threat action. It's for the Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker defends against Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. Kaiser attacked Sheamus outside the ring until Braun hits an incredible leaping shoulder tackle. You get Braun took control over Sheamus in the ring for a bit. He goes for the cover and then leaps off and does his little Steiner push-ups. Sheamus and Kaiser wound up fighting outside of the ring until Braun is able to wipe both of them out with a leaping clothesline over the announce table. Sheamus was dumped into the crowd, but you get Kaiser. He hits Braun Breaker and puts him down, but then Sheamus rises behind him like he's the Undertaker in a Boneyard match and then puts him in the 10 beats of the Bowery. He then does it to Braun Breaker as well over the barricade. We get Kaiser grabs Sheamus's shillelagh, but Sheamus took it away and knocked him over the barricade. We get a nice little exchange between Sheamus and Braun Breaker, trying to prove who's the better man between the two of them. Braun invited old man Sheamus back into the ring. Sheamus hit the Celtic Cross for a near fall. Braun came back with the Breakensteiner, which looked great. He went for a spear, but Sheamus was able to dodge it. Braun crashed into a steel chair that was wedged in between the two ropes. He then gets hammered with the freaking bro kick. Sheamus has it won. This crowd was on the edge of their seat. They're counting off with the referee. 1, 2. But then the referee gets pulled outside of the ring to ringside by Ludwig Kaiser, who yanked him out from the potential 3 count. The crowd booed the hell out of Kaiser for this move. Kaiser then taunts Sheamus, who gets out of the ring, and he gets nailed with his own shillelagh. Kaiser was proud of himself. He brings Sheamus back into the ring and was hitting him with the shillelagh some more. Whole bunch of big bruises all over Sheamus's body. Sheamus connects with Kaiser with the knee strike and gets a near fall off of that. At this point, the crowd is going crazy with "This is awesome" chant. Kaiser hit Sheamus with a Finley / Kaiser roll and then a DDT, but Braun killed Kaiser with a spear where he leaped like halfway across the ring, Josh. This shit was ridiculous how far he jumped on that spear on Kaiser. He then hits Sheamus with one spear and then another. 1, 2, 3. Braun Breaker retains the Intercontinental Championship in what I thought was just a splendid sprint of a 3-way. It was all thriller, no filler, all action every step of the way. This is what we expected. This is what they delivered. This was one of the best matches on the show. Wouldn't even argue if you thought it was the absolute best match on the show. Everyone fit their role so well. With Braun Breaker, he's an absolute star and an absolute badass who destroys everyone in front of him. You had Kaiser playing the hero role and taking advantage of certain aspects, being the resourceful heel that he always is. And Sheamus playing the gritty, hard-hitting veteran babyface who everyone was behind to finally win the one title that eluded him. And everyone played their role so well to tell that story. I gave this match 4.25 stars. What did you think?
It was a great matchup. I really didn't expect much, even though we do have some good workers in the ring, right? I think Braun is getting up there. Super athletic. He uses his speed a lot, which is not common with guys his size. Then you have Sheamus, the veteran. Every time he gets in the ring, he talks about it. He puts on banger at the banger. So it was no different. And then Ludwig, with him, I think he's pretty underrated. I think he's good on the mic, pretty good wrestler in the ring too. So everything worked well together. So I do agree when it comes to that. And, I had Braun retaining. So, everything worked out. Fun matchup, right person won. That's all I could really ask for.
We got a member chat here from Vala B, who's been a member for 17 months. Thank you so much, Vala B, for all your support. You can become a member by hitting the join button and paying $1 a month for in-chat perks like this one right here from Vala B, who says Nia came in with that Hulk Hogan WCW chair shot. Yeah, Hulk Hogan 1997 chair shots, Vala B. That was straight out of, she was hitting these folks like they were the Giant, where he just bops them on the head like boop, and then leaves them be. That's what Hogan was doing in 1995, folks. To extra mothers and fathers. We also got a super chat donation. Thank you so much, Will Chisholm, who says, if Braun worked the G1, how you think he'd do? I think that he would have some great matches with the New Japan roster, like Braun Breaker, this freak of nature, this freak athlete, monster badass. The Japan fans would love him out there. What do you think, Josh?
I think he'll get his ass whooped because they treat him like a young lion. They'll whoop his ass, throw him around the ring. That's what
He loses to Boston Crabs every night.
Nah, I think he'll do fairly well. Something in an environment like that, I think that would be pretty cool. Something that will benefit him a lot, to be honest with you. Because I think, usually when wrestlers do excursions in Japan, they usually end up looking better because they kind of harness not only their skill, but then it's like in Japan, they fucking really hit you. So it's a lot of shit that you learn in Japan. And I think something like that would benefit him.
Give me Braun Breaker versus Shingo Takagi. Straight up. Match of the year.
You got that, or even a regular match doesn't even have to be a G1. Like him and Ishii, that would be a fun matchup too. Like stuff like that. Yeah, I think that'd be fun. Like something like that would be fun, like to watch. I mean, they do have the partnership with Noah, so I mean, and Noah does kind of do their own thing, right? Like their own kind of G1. Never know. Sometimes may never know if their partnership expands. That might happen. You never know.
Give me Braun Breaker versus Kitamiya from Noah. He's their version of Ishii. So just give me that.
Yeah.
Power driver finisher. Now you're thinking about the money. He's thinking about the money. Braun versus Evil. That's thinking about the money, folks. Money. But
burning money.
But let's go into the next matchup for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther goes one-on-one with Damian Priest. Priest shoulder tackles Gunther early on in the matchup, and he was really in control of the opening 2-3 minutes of this matchup. But after the shoulder tackle, Priest appears like he hurt his shoulder, and you can see kind of the light bulb go out over Gunther's head as the referee checked on Priest, and Priest immediately waved him off. But Gunther smiled like he saw something. They kept wrestling, but after Priest hit a slam, he started selling his shoulder again. As the referee checked on Priest, Gunther took advantage and booted him right in the shoulder. Gunther targeted Priest's shoulder throughout the matchup from there until Priest was able to hit an enziguri. The crowd was very quiet for the early portion of this matchup, but they woke up a bit when Priest started making his comeback. We get him hitting a flatliner for a 2. Priest tried for a razor's edge, but he couldn't do it due to the injured shoulder. Priest instead applied a triangle choke, which was a new variation out of his repertoire. We get Gunther escaped and applied a sleeper before hitting a big power bomb, but only getting a 2 count. Priest hit a Hurricane Rana off the top rope and then finally hit the razor's edge for a 2 count. Priest failed twice to go for the South of Heaven chokeslam thanks to the injured shoulder. Gunther responded with a Kimura, but Priest was able to get his rope break by getting to the ropes. Gunther played to the crowd, and he repeatedly clotheslined Priest, feeling like he was in full control until Priest came back with a big lariat for a 2. They battled on top of the rope until Priest shoved Gunther into the ring, but Priest fell to the outside as a result. A few idiots started chanting, "You fucked up," but it was a planned spot, you idiots. The referee checked on Priest, but Priest told him to give him a second. As the referee checked on Gunther in the ring, Finn Balor ran down out of the crowd, and he gave Priest a coup de grace off the steel steps. The ref saw Balor, but didn't think anything of it. I don't know why. Balor was talking trash to Priest. When Gunther saw him, Gunther boots Balor out of the way. He then shoves Priest into the ring. He hits a power bomb and then applies a sleeper with his arm trapped, the injured shoulder trap, and Priest has no choice but to pass out. Gunther gets the win via referee stoppage, once again receiving the help of Finn Balor to defeat Damian Priest. This was good, not as good or not as great. I thought the match at SummerSlam was great. This was good. This I give the match 3.5, 3 3/4. I'll say 3 3/4 is Gunther. So they told their story very, very well because Gunther is one of the best wrestlers in the world. So I like the fact that they sold the build of the matchup with Gunther's kind of confidence being shaken, but Gunther immediately getting it back. I thought that was the bright story to tell, that all he needed to see was a weakness in Priest, and he was able to kind of change his game plan, go after the shoulder. I think they told a strong story in that part, and he did great job with the limb work throughout the matchup, and Priest sold it excellently. But once again, doing the same finish as SummerSlam, it's like, what was the point? What was the point of even doing this? Just to reignite the feud between Balor and Priest? Nobody wants to see that. We're done with that. We want to move on. And you're just going right back to teach yourself. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt the same way. The match wasn't nothing too crazy. I do feel like their SummerSlam match was better. I felt like there was more intensity in SummerSlam as well. This one kind of just felt like, all right, let's get through this. And they tried to do some things. They were trying to sell Damian's injury in the match, which is fine. I think sometimes you could tell a great story with that. And then the downside for me was the Finn involvement. I was just like, again, I was like, even when I was talking to Wendy about it, like when I saw it on the screen, I was like, why are we getting this shit again? I was like, what the fuck? I was like, oh my God. I was like, this feud never gonna end in a feud that Damian has already won, and then yet we're still gonna continue it. It's just like, what the fuck is the point? And then you did, like you said, they did the exact same finish. Finn got involved, and Gunther choked him out. Like, we basically got, what we got, even though, I feel bad I'm comparing this because the match was not good. Remember, like, Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal, where when Jinder won the title, what are the Singh brothers got involved?
Yeah.
Orton puts him through the table, whatever the case may be. Or he comes back, then this dude hits his finisher, wins. And then the rematch, the same exact thing happened. The same exact thing. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, and I know what they were trying to do. They're still trying to make Damian look strong. They're trying, by doing that. At the same time, it's like, I just don't want to see this feud anymore. I don't want to see Finn versus Damian. It's not interesting. And it's not interesting because the way they booked it. And it's like, I don't want to see it again. What's the fucking angle with this? For Damian to win again? And then to Finn have a match, win a match finally, and then Damian wins one back? I don't need to see that shit.
I love this comment from Chiller with Chase, who said, had to rub my eyes, thought I had SummerSlam on with that finish.
Yo, it was like almost the same finish. It was the only difference was that Finn actually did a move. That was the only difference, because the other one was just more of like, it was he put
Gunther's foot on the rope.
On the rope, right? That was basically the only difference, was that he actually did something in this time. But I didn't fucking need it, because honestly, there was no thought of me that Gunther was losing. Even with there was no, and I think that's what did it for me too. Where like when I'm watching the match, there was like no indication that Damian was winning, and then he did that. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of loses that kind of feeling too, at least to me. Like, where it would make more sense, like if somebody has the advantage, like if Damian is dominating the match, right? Like 70% of the match, that makes more sense. The guy had one fucking arm. So, he didn't really need it, and then we got the finish that we got. Even though I like when Gunther does that, the fucking elbows, and then does the chokehold. I think that's a smart strategy, because you don't see it as much. But I mean, overall, match, it is what it was. I mean, we kind of did expect that too. Remember, we were like, oh yeah, that's probably gonna be one of Gunther's weakest matches. That has nothing to do with Gunther. It's just.
Yeah, because it's not gonna be better than SummerSlam, so yeah, it's gonna be weak. But like, this is the thing with Gunther. Like, his best title defense so far has been Randy Orton. The reason why Randy Orton was so good is because they at least gave you one moment where you thought maybe Orton could. This didn't have that.
Yeah, this didn't have that at all.
Didn't have that at all. You didn't have one moment where you thought, oh, Gunther was gonna lose. Like, even with like something like we saw last weekend with Full Gear with Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley. Everyone and their mama knew Jon Moxley was gonna win that matchup, but everybody and their mama also bit on the briefcase shot where he got that near fall. Everybody in the building jumped on that, and I heard multiple people saying at home they were jumping on that. So if you don't have that in a very predictable title match, then it's not going to be as good as it should be. And that's the case here.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it wasn't like the worst match I seen in a while. I mean, at least, but it was just there. And then the whole Finn stuff, I was just kind of over it. I think even Jay Kwan was over it, because Jay Kwan was like, I want to fucking see this shit again.
Here we are. Here we go again. Before the main event, we did get Monday Night Football style intros for the team members of each team, for the OG Bloodline and the new Bloodline. Then we got the entrances with the new Bloodline coming as a united force, all wearing black. Even Bronson Reed coming out with the new Bloodline. They all enter the ring. They all enter the cage, except for Tama Tonga, who hugs Solo Sikoa and then heads to the ring. The original Bloodline enter separately. First Sammy, then Jimmy Uso, then CM Punk, then Roman Reigns. They were all wearing red and black attire. You get Punk when he comes out. He shoves Bronson Reed in the face, and he starts riling up the rest of the Bloodline. We get Zayn.
Bullshit again. That's the Phil I know.
You get Roman coming out. I was quite surprised when Roman's music hit. I was like, "Oh shit!" They got Jay coming out last again. Let's go, Jay. Let's go, Jay. I'm proud of you, Jay.
I thought it was the right move.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, they all came out separately. We get a little bit of a tense stare down between Punk and Roman before they all stepped inside the mini cage. We even get this moment here with Roman side-eyeing Punk as Punk's looking ahead. Jey Uso comes out on his own. He enters through the corridor and then through the crowd. The crowd is going crazy with the yeet chants. And it was a very, very appropriate Jey Uso getting this spotlight here in this matchup. After Sikoa's team was already in the cage you get Jay and Tama Tonga are the two to start the matchup. Pretty good back and forth between those two as they did battle inside of the cage. The next to come in was not Tonga Loa, which was a little bit of a surprise here. Instead, we get Bronson Reed coming in because I guess Punk's like, Solo's like, I want the advantage early on. We can't have you fucking shit up. Reed, who has killed people with this finishing move, decided to grab a bunch of steel chairs and toss them into the ring. Jay chucked the chair at Reed, and Reed ran him over with a body block. The heels worked over Jay as the crowd took turns lightly chanting for Zayn and Punk. We get Jimmy entered the cage next, and he wiped out both heels on his own. Jimmy Uso came in and put his working boots on. This dude's doing corkscrews off the top rope. He's moving very well with him and Jay. He looked healthy for the first time in a while as well. So it was good to see that from Jimmy. But with the Usos taking over, it looks like Tonga Loa is going to enter the cage next. But instead, Solo Sikoa stops him, much to the dismay of the crowd. But Solo held him back so Jacob Fatu could enter next. Jay gave him a Samoan drop, but Fatu immediately pops right up and knocks him over, knocks him down. The heels took control of the WarGames matchup at this point. And at this point, I was already saying, I was like, holy shit, Jacob Fatu is different. Punk was about to enter next, but Roman, in a mirroring of what Solo did, he stops Punk and he allows Sami Zayn to go ahead of him and goes to the ring. Sami gets the nod from Roman before he goes to the ring, and Punk is staring a hole through Roman. The crowd chanted "Olay" for Sami as he ran wild on the heels. Fatu caught him out of midair, but Jimmy super kicked Fatu, and Zayn and Jimmy do their special handshake for the first time since this whole reunion started, and started putting the boots to Fatu. We get this great shot, this great meme. This needs to be a meme that goes all over of Punk and Roman in the cage together, looking quite annoyed at one another. The heels took over anyway, as they often do, and then Tonga Loa entered next to really give them the advantage. It's like they knew he wouldn't get a reaction because the first thing he did was grab a table, which this normally gets a big pop, and even Raquel Rodriguez got a pop for it, but Tonga Loa did not. The heels took over, and you could basically skip the next couple of minutes. It's just domination by the heels. Some cool stuff from Jacob Fatu as usual. The clock ran down, and it looks like Roman is about to enter next, but Punk moved. He moves so slowly, so Punk pushes past Roman, and he enters next. Punk teases that he wouldn't get in the ring, but instead he grabbed a toolbox, much like the one that he busted open Drew McIntyre with inside of Hell in a Cell. He used it as a weapon against the heels. Punk took out everyone, and then he gives Jacob Fatu a bulldog onto the toolbox, but Fatu no-sells it and then knocks down Punk. Yo, I was like, Jacob Fatu, this is a star-making performance. You get Punk tries to take him out, but Jacob Fatu's just getting the better of him for a bit here. You get Solo coming in next. He enters next with the new Bloodline firmly in control. Fatu gave the Usos, who were stacked up, a double jump moonsault, while Bronson Reed gave Sami a tsunami. Punk tried to fight back after they swarmed him, but Solo and the rest of the gang beat down Punk. Solo then grabs his own chain and lock, and he locks the door to the WarGames as Reigns is entering 15 seconds later. Reigns has no way to enter the door, but he remembers what EL Sky did during the women's WarGames, and he decides to climb the steel cage. And that got a decent reaction, even got a bigger reaction when Roman started fighting back against the new Bloodline as they tried to cut him off at the pass. I love Roman smashing Bronson Reed's head into the cage and then looking straight into the camera and smiling. We then get Roman finally inside the cage, jumping off the top rope to take out all of the new Bloodline. The match officially began about 29 minutes in. Roman helped his friends up to their feet, except for CM Punk. Punk got up on his own and got right in Roman's face. Out came Paul Heyman at this point to ringside. He tries to rally his guys, saying that you're the best in the world. You're my tribal chief. If you work together, we can win. WarGames. The two teams stood tall in each ring. 30 minutes into the matchup, we get the big battle between all 10 men in between the two rings. After some stalling, there was a spot where Reigns went for a spear on Solo, but he moves out the way and Reigns speared Punk instead by accident. Punk was setting up Fatu for a GTS. Wasn't the best time. It didn't look too great, but we got the point of the spot. Solo at this point takes advantage of Roman's distraction. He hits him with the Samoan spike for a near fall. Fatu went for a double jump moonsault, but he trips and began tending to his leg, and he would be limping throughout the rest of the matchup. Reigns spears Fatu moments later. Reed placed Roman on top of a table, and he climbed all the way up to the top of the cage. He goes for the tsunami, but Punk pulls Roman off of the table to safety. Reed goes crashing through the table perfectly. Well, not so perfect if you're axing his ankles. The crowd chanted for Punk for the great save. Reigns was surprised, and he gets to his feet, and then he helps Punk up to his feet as well as the crowd pops for that. Jacob Fatu attacks both men from behind. Solo gave Roman the spike. The Usos super kicked Solo from behind to break up the cover, as it looked like he was going to get the win on Roman. The Usos then gave Jacob Fatu the 1D. Jay spears Tongaloa. Sami Zayn gave Tama Tonga the Blue Thunder Bomb. Then Jimmy splashes Jacob Fatu through a table off the top of the cage. Great spot. Sammy then goes up. He helps up Jimmy, helps up Jay. He helps up Roman. Well, he helps up Punk. Then the Usos help up Reigns to his feet. This is all left where it's all of the baby faces in the ring with one Solo Sikoa, the man that started all of this trouble. But Solo doesn't back down. Solo doesn't cower. He's like, it didn't have to be this way, but so be it. I'm still the tribal chief. And he's about to hit them with the Samoan spike, but he gets hit with one super kick, two super kick, the double super kick by the Usos. Then we get Sammy, after he gets the nod from Roman Reigns, a callback from the WarGames in 2022. He hits the Aluva kick on Solo. Punk then grabs Solo, and he hits a GTS. And then Roman finishes things off with the spear to give the OG Bloodline the victory here. Very emotional moment post-match as Reigns, Sammy, Jay, and Jimmy all hug with Punk looking on. Punk then embraces Jimmy, Jay, and Sammy individually before they all hug with Roman looking on. Reigns gets basically a pep talk from Sammy, who says that they wouldn't have got the job done. They wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for him and his sacrifice. So Roman takes down his pride for a bit. He offers a show of respect to CM Punk, with Paul Heyman kind of rooting him on from outside of the cage, praising the Lord that his two guys, his tribal chief and his best friend, are getting along as they pose in the ring. They then all walk out of the cage. They all embrace Paul Heyman. In particular, CM Punk hugs Paul Heyman, and they have a conversation. And Paul Heyman tells Punk that I owe you. And Punk says, no, we owe each other. But when I'm ready for that favor, I'm going to come axe. And Heyman says, it's yours. We still don't know what the favor is. Roman walks out of the cage, and he comes up to his wise man. He caresses his face as Paul Heyman ejaculates a little bit in his pants. He's so excited. They all walk up the entranceway, and they pose to close the show. The way that they lingered on this close of the show, did you think that something was going to happen? Like somebody was going to come out? I thought they lingered too long, where I was starting to think, I was like, is Brock or somebody, The Rock, going to come out here at this point? They're staying so long. But now it was just a happy celebration for the baby faces. This main event was tremendous. Tremendous storytelling. So they're just hard-hitting, violent, and well-paced offense and action throughout the entire WarGames. Even the first 28 minutes with the storytelling between Roman and Punk, Jacob Fatu being a highlight, the Usos reunion, Jimmy and Sammy having a little moment together. They gave us so much stuff in the first 28 minutes that it felt, when we got the WarGames started, it felt like the crescendo. It felt like a 10 to 15 minute long closing stretch instead of, oh, this is when the match starts, like the women's WarGames. This was one of the best WWE matches from start to finish. As far as what it delivered in the vacuum, in what happened, and what it means for the future. Because with the finish of this matchup, we know the issues between the OG and the new bloodline are not over. Like Solo Sikoa said at the end, I'm still the tribal chief. He still's got the Ula Fala. So he still got Roman and Solo to deal with who's the real tribal chief. Then you also have the little teasing of Roman and Punk and Paul Heyman's involvement with that. Therein lies the other question of what's the favor that Paul Heyman owes CM Punk. And like, there's so much more, so many other factors outside of it that will factor in to the bloodline story moving forward, whether it's Cody Rhodes, whether it's The Rock. But man, that was a blast to watch. I gave the match 4 3/4 stars. Like I said, one of the best WWE matches of the year for me. What did you think?
Same. Even last night, I think a lot of people were surprised when I said the match was fantastic. I mean, it did everything basically what I was hoping for, right? Great storytelling within what these guys are doing, right? They had a good build up to it. Like, we kind of knew where it was going, and we knew it for a while. Like, oh yeah, it's gonna be new bloodline versus old bloodline, right? And that I was one of those that said it, like, hey, yeah, I'm not as excited like everybody else because we kind of saw this coming, but everybody delivered. I think everybody did their part, and it worked out. Having Punk in the match, I think, was definitely a better solution. I'm not taking away nothing from Seth Rollins, but I think we all know how great Seth Rollins is. But within the storyline, I think this makes the most sense, right? Having Punk. Because honestly, I didn't want another situation for Seth to look like an idiot. He already looked like an idiot in WrestleMania 40. We didn't need another situation where he looks like a bigger idiot within the same year. I didn't want that for him. So the Punk thing was good. And even Punk did his part in the match, right? And I've always said it for a while, I have my personal things against Punk. At the same time, I've always given praise. I think when we do these reviews and we talk about his work, I think I've always been fair when it comes to that, right? And for Punk, I've always said his strongest point is his storytelling. I think a lot of people get confused when they hear about CM Punk and his work. I think a lot of people get confused with like him being a smaller guy, so they think he's a flippy kind of indie guy, which is not really accurate at all, especially the later years of CM Punk. His basically strongest point is his storytelling. This is why his style works for WWE, because he's gonna get you over within what he does in the ring because it's more storytelling based. He's not gonna do the over top moves. He's not gonna do the flippy stuff. He's not gonna do anything that's like, oh my god, this is like spectacular, like what he did, right? You're not gonna get a Will Ospreay kind of match from Punk. And I think people always had that weird kind of thing with Punk where people thought like that was the kind of guy he was. I'm like, no, that's always been his style. His style has always been very simple, but he gets you over because of what he does in the ring, like how he puts it together. That's why he's so great at what he does. And yesterday was another example of that. And then everybody else, man, like fucking even the top spots, man, Bronson Reed, regardless of these guys getting injured, Jimmy and Bronson Reed, I mean, they did their part because that was fucking – they proved me wrong because I was like, hey, I don't think they're going to do any big spots in the match because usually we get that from men's matches. Men's matches, we always get like better paced matches, but we don't really get nothing that's like over the top. And we got that last night, which I was surprised with. Unfortunately, both guys got hurt, right, in it. So that's the downside. But the upside, I mean, the match was, I mean, like I said, man, everybody did their part and didn't see blood. So, and it was still brutal. Like a lot of spots were brutal. And, like, that's why it was good. Like sometimes you don't always need blood. in these kinds of matches. I think this, again, prime example of what we got in the WarGames match. Again, like, and then even that last sequence, fucking Solo standing like the fucking evil villain around, everybody's like surrounding him, was like fucking Star Trek. I think the Star Trek remake where Eric Bana, the villain, was like, when they were like asking him if he wanted to surrender, he said no, and they basically like killed him off because he refused. He went down with a sinking ship. That's what Solo did. He was like, fuck it, like, I'm still the tribal chief. I'm the tribal chief. I'm still the tribal chief. It doesn't matter. And he lost. And
but
you know, I mean,
it so set him up. It did make him feel like he was the big boss
Yeah.
and villain. Like at the end, that all the baby faces had to team up on to get the better of.
Yeah, and I think with Solo too, his charisma has shown the last like a while, last few weeks, I would say, like he's really gotten to his own with that. Like we kind of know what we're getting from him in the ring. We're not getting anything great in the ring, but as long as he has that charisma and he has like that, you know, like he has that energy, nothing else is really going to matter when it comes to that. So, I mean, he's been holding his own. He's been doing great things when it comes to that. And I think that's making up for a lot of stuff that he's lacking. And again, man, this fucking match, like, this makes me want to see the match again, to be honest with you. Like, when I woke up, I was like, yo, I really want to see that match again. Because everything, again, man, they did everything, like, to the T. Like, I really can't really pick out a bad spot in the fucking match. Like, I really
This might
can't.
be my favorite main roster WarGames match.
It is. It is for me. I think it got to a point last night when I was watching it. I was like, "Yo, this actually might be my favorite main roster WarGames match." And I mean, shit, people calling this even 5 stars. I wouldn't even blame them because it was that good. I really feel like it was that good of a match. And then even everything after the match, like, you know, like the small stuff, you know, Punk and Roman shaking hands and, you know, like the pose. I'm kind of glad nothing outstaged that. I'm kind of glad like The Rock didn't come out because I just thought it wasn't needed. I think that was a fine way to end the show, like just them standing tall, having that. You always don't need that big moment. Obviously, I think people got accustomed to last year because we got CM Punk back. But at the same time, I mean, that situation is totally different because the guy who thought nobody ever was going to come back came back. That's why it's such a big moment. So I don't want people to get – I don't want fans to get comfortable like, oh, my God, we're going to get it because of Survivor Series. Like, no. Like, doesn't – it always got to be that way, people. Like, let's like you know, let's call it like this. But even if The Rock came out, I mean, are you gonna have him do the same thing that he did at Bad Blood? Just stand and look and not do nothing? Like, just do this again? I'm like, bro, you just did that already. Like, what the fuck?
No. Now it's gonna be with Punk in the ring, so he's just gonna look at him like,
yeah. But again, I can't not say enough good things about this match. Like, it was
everyone played their role very well. Roman and Punk were really kind of like the centerpieces of with their tension and the little spots with the spear, and then Punk pulling them off of the table, and then the handshake at the end. Like, all of that work to kind of build everything out and really tease this as a money matchup moving forward for WWE. Then you had, you know, Jay wrestling the entire matchup for the babyface team. Jimmy, this is probably Jimmy Uso's best matchup since, like, I want to say like 18 months ago. I think this is his best matchup since WrestleMania 39 when him and Jay faced KO and Sammy. I think this is his best match, his best performance in quite some time. He looked healthy. He took risks. He looked agile, and he was a contributing factor in a match that he otherwise would have been the forgotten member of the babyface team. He stood out in a big way, especially I love the fact that they gave him that spotlight for him to do the big spot of the matchup because you're going to be forced to remember him because of that big spot in the matchup. Sammy was great with his selling. I think Sammy and Jay are just meant to be in these WarGames matches, and it's a reason that they've been in all 3 over the last 3 years for the men. for the WWE on the main roster, because they just fit in so well, where they can be the babyface in peril before the next babyface comes in to even the odds. They can come in and do the hot tag, and they got an offense that will get the crowd excited. So they're just meant to be in this style of matchup. Already talked about Solo Sikoa. He seems like a future, like a top heel that could be a top heel for like the next 5 to 10 years. Solo Sikoa, with how he comes out of this matchup. I thought Tama Tonga was able to start off, and like I said, like Jay wrestling the entire matchup shows a lot in him. Bronson Reed standing out, looking like an absolute force out there in his first main event on a premium live event. So, and I already said about Jacob Fatu, he was the MVP of this matchup. And especially if he did get hurt and he continued wrestling, like, this dude is an absolute beast. He's a future WWE champion, and there's just no doubt about it. And also Tonga Loa was there.
Yeah. He didn't make no mistakes. That's all you really ask.
He didn't make any mistakes.
You know, kind of reminds me of, like, like when somebody makes like a game plan, right? They give everybody like their positions, right? Hey, do that, like, go over here, work on this, right? And then this dude is like asking, oh, what can I do? Just stand there, make sure nothing bad happens. Like, that's like a lowest role.
He always just stand over there. Will Chisholm, it does not sound crazy, because we actually said this a week and a half ago. He says, might sound crazy, but I think we get Punk versus Roman at SummerSlam. Yeah, check out. We're gonna drop the video.
And I said it.
We're gonna drop the video tomorrow when we, Josh and Chrissy, discuss when we think WWE is gonna pull the trigger on Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Perfect day to drop it tomorrow on the channel. But we discussed that on True Hill Heat 304.
It's just so funny that people are saying that now, and it's just like so funny, because I'm like, yeah, I said that a while ago. Like, it's one of those things where, again, SummerSlam is gonna be a hard thing to sell because it's 2 nights. You're gonna need something prominent, and that's something prominent. Even if it doesn't need no title, nothing. Roman versus Punk is gonna sell a lot of tickets. That's where I stand by. If they do it sooner, they do it sooner. Right, that's out of my control. I can't, that it is what it is. And they have a story out there, and and they want to do something, and they do the overseas PLE, because even the overseas PLE is gonna make a lot of money. So that aspect is not gonna really hurt them, even if they do it sooner. But
they gotta do it at one of their big 4 pay-per-view. You don't need it for the overseas WWE event.
No, you don't need it, but as in like money, like as in like the money, like when it comes to like, oh yeah, we got record, breaking gate, right?
Dude,
which is like they always do that.
Sorry, this year they set record gates with the main events of the following: Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles.
Which is like
Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre.
Like
they don't need to.
Yeah, they don't need it
on the overseas show.
No, they don't need it, but like that's just their way to try to justify it. You know what I mean? Like they're not like you're not gonna get Punk versus Roman in the PLE like in Idaho or something. Like that's not happening. Like,
but I don't think you're getting it in Germany or Mexico. I don't think you're getting it there. I think you're getting it. That's a WrestleMania matchup, but at the very least, that's a SummerSlam main event.
And then also because SummerSlam is going 2 nights, like your first SummerSlam 2-night main show, that would mean something. Like I think that's like another accolade you could add. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So
I think that's a good spot for them. I think, but again, it's just a matter of how they get there. You know what I mean? Because you still got Punk versus Rollins, and that's coming sooner than later. So I mean, they still have time, and and we know Triple H, he loves to drag his storytelling, so it could work out.
GPS and we gotta twist the turns, and it leads us to a different.
Or what could happen too is like when we're talking about the favor, they don't mention it until like months later. Remember that favor I brought up, and then like they're gonna have enough fans complaining like, wasn't he owed a favor? Why did they get away from that? And then they're gonna bring it up because fans are complaining, so we gotta bring it up. And then that's how they use Roman versus Punk at SummerSlam.
Yeah, Roman will probably be undisputed WWE champion again, and that's when Punk is going to come through with the favor to Paul Heyman.
It could be.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people think that this is going to lead to CM Punk being the heel. Do you think that Punk should be the heel when he faces Roman Reigns?
Not necessarily. Because right now, I mean, it's a lot different now just because, like, I think their face personas are a little bit different that you can still pull it off. Like, you can still pull it off. Like, their trajectory is different, right? Like, Roman is more of a badass baby face. And Punk, no offense to Punk, but he panders to the fans. He's basically like kind of like in a Cody category where he's kind of more pandering to fans. Roman doesn't necessarily do that. Like, he'll do his acknowledge me line, but he's more of a badass. So I think you can still pull that off. I think you can still pull face versus face. Because if Punk was to go heel, I just don't see that happening because, one, the merchandise alone, that's just not going to happen regardless. Yeah. And two, I mean, it's just what he's going to turn heel on. You're going to have bitter Phil. Like, that's just the only thing I can really see. Like, he turns heel, he's going to be bitter. And there's really no, like, what he's jealous of. You know what I mean? Like, what's the reason that he's going to turn heel? Is it going to be because he has Paul Heyman? I don't know. Doesn't necessarily need to happen, in my opinion. You can still do face versus face because they're two different baby faces. Like, you could still do that. Like, I wouldn't mind it. I think that kind of would make things better because then both guys will still take shots at each other. Like we saw with Will Ospreay and Swerve, face versus baby face, and they were taking shots at each other. Like, they could make it work. I don't think it necessarily needs to be, oh, this person needs to be heel or face. I don't, in this situation at least.
That's fair. That is fair. But yeah, let us know in the live chat whether you want to see, when do you want to see Roman Reigns versus CM Punk? What event do you think that match will go down? And should CM Punk be a heel? What do you think is the favor from Paul Heyman? Let us know in the comments down below if you're watching us on demand as well. Final call for super chat donations. Thank you so much to everyone who's contributed already during the live stream. We appreciate you. And that includes our good brother Chilling with Chase, who just simply puts up the one. He's been waiting. He's been waiting for the big win by the OG Bloodline to put up that one. He puts his ones up for us for a super chat donation. Thank you so much, Chilling with Chase. But also in the chat, let us know your match of the night, your MVP, your LVP. Out of 10, what did you give the show? Whether you gave the show a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle overall. For me and Josh, for Survivor Series WarGames 2024 in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up across the board from both of us. Josh, out of 10, what did you give the show?
The show itself, I would probably say about probably solid 8.5, I would say. Just because, we had how many matches? We had 5 matches, both WarGames matches. The triple threat match was great. The 2 singles matches were like they were either too okay to like decent. Like, it wasn't nothing spectacular. But again, the main match was the WarGames match, the men's WarGames match, and I felt like that kind of I want to say over-delivered because I thought it was fair. I think it's a fair assessment when it comes to like how we liked the match and how we praised it. That basically was like that. Basically, I want to say carried the show, but I mean can't really top that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Bad Blood. Like when we talked about Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell match, carried the show because everything else was just either not good to like mid. At this show, we had a lot of great moments. A lot of again, few surprises. So I think probably 8. I want to say between 8 and 8.5.
I'm gonna go with a 7.5 out of 10.
7.5. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think 7.5 out of 10 is where I'm at. I thought the main event delivered big time, and there is an argument where you could say it's a one-match show, but I think that the triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship was so great that it's a 2-match show. I thought Gunther and Damian Priest was good. The Women's War Games was 28 minutes of the drizzling shits that I've ever seen in a WWE ring in 2024. And then 11 minutes of some fun spot-filled War Games action, which was nice. So it bombed out to just about fine. Just about fine is probably the most positive thing I can say about the Women's War Games matchup. And Nakamura and LA Knight had a TV match on this show. So that was the show. That's a 7.5. I gave it 8.5 for Full Gear. This is 7.5. 1 point less.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Josh, where are you at with the match of the night?
Main event easily, or the men's War Games match.
Seems like a lot is in agreement with that. Chilling with Chase says match of the night, men's War Games. I agree with both of you. Men's War Games by far is the best thing on this show. And the one thing I would tell anybody, go out of your way to see that and the triple threat for the Intercontinental title. So I don't mind if you gave that match of the night either. Safet gives match of the night to the men's War Games. Hey, we got someone different. Ed E. Kane Man says MVP Women's War Games, my VIP match. I guess MVP.
I don't know. He must be drunk in that VIP section because, man,
he popping bottles.
Probably the third best match of the night. Like honestly, that's probably the third best match by default. I mean, yeah.
What was your MVP for the show?
MVP, I want to say, I mean, I'll say everybody in the men's War Games match. Everybody did their part. Again, there's really no losers when it comes to like that portion. Like there's really no losers. Like match was fantastic. I really cannot say what spot was bad. That's just how I feel about it. And probably gonna watch it again later. So I'll give it to all the men, just because like all the men and the War Games. I want to say all the men in the show because that'd be very sexist of me. But all the men in the War Games match.
I'm gonna give it to co-MVP as well for me, but I'll give it to Roman, Punk, Jacob Fatu, and Jimmy Uso in particular from the men's War Games. LVP for the show, Josh.
I got actually two LVPs. I got Nia Jax. Nia Jax is an LVP, and that person who asked the first question in the post show.
I mean, both pretty fair. My LVP for the show, I'm going to give it to, since I don't know the agent or producer for the matchup, I have to give it to Triple H for the first 28 minutes of the Women's War Games matchup, because he should stop this. Even if it's not him who's the agent or producer, you need to be the head of creative and be like, maybe we shouldn't do it this way. Maybe we should figure out a different way to do this. So yeah, that would probably be Triple H and Damian Priest because he's still stuck in the Judgment Day vortex.
Yeah, and I I mean, it's unfortunate for Damian because I see what they're doing with him, but it's just at the same time, I'm like, this is not really doing him favors because
nope,
you're in a feud that you already won, bro. Like you could just fucking move on.
You beat him in a mixed tag and a singles match, and he's still coming into your life.
Like,
there you go.
Fucking
That's
cockroach.
But yes, let us know what you thought about WWE Survivor Series War Games 2024 in the comments down below. If you made it this far to the video, we appreciate y'all for doing that. If you haven't already, drop the thumbs up on the video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because we are less than 650,000 subscribers away from our goal of 20K for the end of 2024. We got 30 days left, y'all. So it's time to make the big push. If you got friends who watch wrestling, who don't watch wrestling, who used to watch wrestling, you want to let them know where to find everything they need from the wrestling world and have a great time having a conversation with some folks talking on camera on the YouTube world and sounding off in the live chat. You know to tell them to subscribe to the True Heel Heat YouTube channel because we got consistent content, whether it be pre-recorded, live streamed. You know the deal. We are here to do it, and we got a lot coming up in the next week. We got preview for NXT Deadline coming up this week. We also got a review for NXT Deadline. We got the True Heel Heat flagship podcast, Rated Raw review, AE Ramble. Y'all know what we do. We give y'all that exclusive heat, the True Heel Heat content here. Thank you so much for joining us for the review. And thank you so much to my co-host here, the True Jaw Josh. Thank you, as always, for joining me for these pay-per-view reviews. The floor is yours. Let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow me at JMPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. And I'll be back next Saturday for THH 306.
Boom. You heard it here first. And yes, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at True Hill SP3. You can follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at True Hill Heat. Patreon.com/True Hill Heat. $3 a month gets you exclusive content. The best place to support us when we are not live here. We got a video dropping tomorrow from our True Hill Heat 304 flagship podcast where me, Josh, and Chrissy discuss when we think WWE will pull the trigger on Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. That's going to be dropping tomorrow. Then Tuesday, 105 to 1205, whatever 05. Me and Romeo with Rated Raw review. We got Wednesday, our NXT Deadline preview. Thursday, AE Ramble. Friday, we'll have another pre-recorded video. And then Saturday, the flagship podcast. Josh, me will be here. Maybe we might have a special guest because we don't have Chrissy Love. So stay tuned for all of that. And go over to the True Hill Heat Sports and Entertainment YouTube channel. Me and Chrissy will be live to review The Bear Season 3. We've been promising you that for months, so we're finally delivering it. The Bear Season 3. And then me and Josh also got to do Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2 coming up very soon on True Hill Heat Sports and Entertainment. And we're close to 1,000 subscribers over there as well. So thank you so much for that. But for the True Jaw Josh, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been our WWE Survivor Series War Games review. We are signing off until next time.